rumor has it, this thing is 3 times more difficult to build than a normal real grade. Sometimes when you're building a model kit, you must ask yourself, what is the most important? Do I want something that's fun to build, something that's going to be a lot of fun to post when it's done, or something that's just going to look amazing? Some kits have all 3, some have none, and some have just one of them. Just like our little Zaku here, which was provided to me by my favorite online hobby store, Hobbling Japan. Links to buy your own down below. And purely based on the box, you're probably gonna want to do just that. The cover is the usual awesome looking real grade style with a menacing face on the left and a really sweet looking 3D rendition of the full machine on the right. And I still find it funny how the warnings on the machine start in German with Achtung and then just continue in English. I guess it's just that Zeon accent that's showing through. On the side of the box then, we get a quick overview of all of the amazing features that this thing has to offer, like a full inner frame courtesy of the advanced MS joint, realistic looking pipes, and very cool stickers. Now, look here box, I've already built a real grade Zaku. You're not tricking me with amazing looking images and terms that sound good on a box. Hang on a second, isn't that exactly what happened? Anyways, let's look at what we're getting inside of the box. There's a multicolored A-runner with burgundy, bright red, lighter red, and clear parts, and what you'll also find a lot on this runner, and basically every other runner that has parts for the Zaku itself, are separation tabs that, back in the day, would have heavily hinted at future remolds like a regular Zaku or a high mobility type Zaku. Then there's 2 runners of dark salmon pink and one with a light salmon pink to give us that trademark real great multi-tone color, which we see returning with the 1 gray and 2 black runners, because even the weapons and inner frame need some color differentiation for that extra pizzazz. We've then got the absolutely amazing advanced MS joint runner, and finally 1 runner of hell. Extras then are 2 springs, a giant sheet of realistic marking stickers, and of course a manual that also has extra information on Zaku itself, and even shows some really cool images of it being serviced. This is exactly the kind of stuff that I love to look at while building my model kits, which probably also explains why I assemble something wrong every so often. But anyways, after some minor struggles, I was greeted by what I consider to be one of the best looking Zaku models, period. The detailing is amazing, albeit a bit too shallow in some areas for people who like painting. The proportions are exactly the way I like them. Good luck finding any seam lines, and there is a positively enormous marking sticker sheet for you to apply as you see fit. There's marking stickers, warning stickers, metallic stickers, and only 1 required sticker for color accuracy, the pink mono eye sticker that goes over the clear mono eye. So if you like painting your mono eyes in other colors, you can do that too. And other than that, the machine is 100% color accurate with its typical real grade 2-tone color scheme. But I can already hear you ask, what is the building experience like and how fragile is it? Because let's face it, this is the 2nd real grade ever to be released, and we all know how notoriously flimsy they are. And, well, partially thanks to the design of the Zaku itself, this thing has aged pretty well. You can definitely feel the difference in sturdiness between this thing and a modern real grade, but it isn't too bad either. And the culprit of this is of course on the inside, the almost fully assembled advanced inner frame. Advanced referring to the skill you need when building and handling it. It does look very nice, and for the time, it was definitely an exciting new feature. But in hindsight, the most it does is give the kit that typical real grade finicky feel. So yeah, you're still gonna have to be careful when building this thing as opposed to the average Gunpla. Something that is kinda to be expected when building a real grade. As for the energy pipes then, well, that's just something you're gonna have to deal with. The important thing here is that the end result does look nice, and Bandai at least did their best to make them as easy to assemble as they could. So straight out of the box, we get an absolutely amazing looking Zaku 2 that is even perfect as a straight build. So let's hope that the accessories are equally perfect. And we're off to a great start with the Heat Hawk. Although there's not too much to say about it. It looks the part, and it's got a peg sticking out that fits relatively securely into the right hand. And if you don't want to use it, we get this little clip that can go on either side skirt, or even on the back skirt if you want to. Next up then, we get the trusty Zaku machine gun, the grip moves, the scope moves, and we've got a tiny peg that can fold out either way, so you can attach it to both the left and right hand, and so far it is holding on to the weapon surprisingly well. And what's also cool about the gun is the drum magazine. It's got some really nice detail on the inside, and you can remove it to store it either on the side skirts or on the back skirt. Unfortunately, we do only get one, so you're gonna have to buy more Zakus if you really want to use this feature. And talking about really cool things with one unfortunate downside, the Zaku Bazooka. It's also got a movable grip, a movable scope, and again a tiny peg that folds out either way to attach it to the right or left hand. But keen-eyed viewers might have noticed that there's something missing. And that something is the clear part from the scope. I didn't lose it. In fact, it's right here, but it's so loose that it literally doesn't stay at all. I'm gonna have to glue this after this review is done. And now it's time for the most finicky part of this kit, storing the bazooka on the back skirt. First, you gotta manage to get this flap open, then you have to carefully place the bazooka on it, and finally, do not make eye contact or this thing might fall off just to spite you. And then the final accessories are a tiny but nicely detailed figure of Char Aznable himself, an action-based connector, 2 closed fist hands, and 6 extra pieces for the pipes, in case you lose one like an idiot. On to the articulation then. The head is on a hinge and ball joint combo and goes a bit up and down, forwards and backwards, and rotates around, which is directly linked to the rotation of the mono eye. The shoulders then, at first glance, look like they're nicely articulated, but the upwards and downwards movement is severely limited, relying only on a single ball joint. Fortunately, the arms themselves are a very different story. They can go up and down without any problems, thanks to the fact that both the shoulder shield and the pauldron move out of the way on a double hinge joint. The arms then rotate around below the shoulder, bent at the elbow on 2 joints with some very nice armor separation. There's an extra hinge joint in the forearms with some loose parts included, because it wouldn't be an early real grade without them, and the hands are the old school real grade hands. They've got a ball joint and hinge combo for the wrist and articulated fingers. In the torso then, we find an opening cockpit with unfortunately nobody home, and in the waist we find 2 ball joints that take care of the limited forwards and backwards and sideways movement. And then the rotation depends entirely on how much you're willing to brute force it. And on the backpack we get 2 nicely articulated thrusters. Then with the waist armor though, things get difficult. The back skirt moves a bit, giving the leg some nice backwards movement, but for the full forwards movement, you first have to painstakingly move the side skirts out of the way, which will involve them getting disconnected. Then you move the front skirts, which will involve them getting disconnected, and then you can move the legs forwards. But don't move them too much because, you guessed it, otherwise they'll get disconnected. The outwards movement then goes from really good to really, really good after the side skirt has launched itself to God knows where. The knee then is on a double joint with some really nice armor separation and a springy energy pipe that doesn't hinder it whatsoever. I almost forgot about the rotation. And finally, the feet are on a double ball joint for some really good forwards and backwards, side to side and rotation. And we also get an extra joint in the middle and a tiny little toe joint. So while it's not without its flaws, the real great Zaku is definitely a nicely articulated thing. Just make sure nothing falls off while you're doing so. So as always, the inevitable question is, do you want to buy this? And as an early real grade, it's definitely gotten a bit of a stigma. Sure, it's not as sturdy as contemporary master grades or high grades, nor is it without flaws of its own design, and sometimes it can also be a pain. But even with all of that, this is still my favorite Char Zaku in 1/144th scale. You can fault this early real grade for a lot of things, including not having fixed trigger finger hands as an option, but there are two things you can't argue with. The looks are absolutely phenomenal, even as a straight build, and it is a little technical marvel, making this thing a fantastic addition to your shelf. So then for some size comparisons, here it is next to two other real grades, the contemporary Zaku 2 F-Type and the modern new Gundam. And of course it goes without saying that the new Gundam is much superior in every respect. But what I personally found the funniest is how a simple addition like a fixed trigger finger hand on the F-Type can make such a difference in the overall appreciation of a model kit. So if you're not sure which real grade Zaku to get, the F-Type or Char's S-Type here, definitely go for the F-Type. Next up then, we have the new high-grade Universal Century Char Zaku 2 and the Zaku 2 F2. Purely in terms of proportions, the new high grade was definitely an improvement over the old high grade, which looked atrocious and is therefore currently chilling in a box somewhere. But it still doesn't hold a candle to the real grade. Like I said, this thing looks just too awesome. And then finally, here it is next to the standard size Gym Custom and the always bulky Zaku 3. And that has been all for this review of the most fragile red comet yet. Again, if you want to get one for yourself, links down below. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great day, and I'll see you all next time.